Guys, welcome. We're going to talk about the dark secrets of Easter today, and it's going to be a very interesting study. But first off, I want you to understand something about where Easter comes from. You see, in ancient Babylon, the Trinity got its start with Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz. Semiramis demanded worship for both her husband and her son, as well as herself. She claimed that her son was both Father and the Son. Yes, he was God the Father and God the Son. This was the first divine, incomprehensible mystery. It comes from ancient Babylon, thousands of years before Jesus Christ was born. And Tammuz was known as the Son of God. In ancient Babylon, Semiramis, she was the mother and wife of Nimrod or Baal. She was called Ishtar, and her name was pronounced Easter in English, Astarte, Ashtaroth, Isis, and now Mary in the Catholic Church. You can see it in all these pictures here. But is it possible that some people think that they have a hidden, secret, mystery knowledge, that they can see things that you don't see? Maybe that's why they do a little symbol of 666 over their eyes with an eye, an all-seeing eye, seeing something that you don't see, seeing something and understanding something you don't understand. Well, Alexander Hislop also believes the religion that began at the Tower of Babel was actually the worship of Satan in the form of fire, the sun, and the serpent. However, Satan worship could not be done openly because of the many who still believed in the true God of Noah. So a mystery religion began at Babel where Satan could be worshipped in secret. A mystery religion began where Satan could be worshipped in secret. Is it possible that maybe, just maybe, this secret religion goes on today and many are not seeing it? And some might be thinking I'm stretching a little bit, but I'll come back to this as we continue. Now, what we have here is a picture of Nimrod. He's holding a tree and a reindeer. A tree and a reindeer. Where do these symbols come from? Well, that's where you get Christmas from, is ancient Babylon and Nimrod. You see, in the book of Genesis chapter 10, verse 8 to 10, it tells us about Cush, that's Noah's son, having a son named Nimrod. He became a mighty hunter in the earth. And it says the beginning of his kingdom was Babel. This is where Babylon comes from. Ancient Babylon was from Nimrod. Nimrod was the founder, and he had a wife, and her name was Ishtar or Easter. But interestingly, in the book of Revelation, it talks about a modern day Babylon. I think we should be aware of it. See, this woman here in Revelation 17, upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. She also is a mother. Perhaps a mother very similar to Ishtar. Ishtar was a mother of Tammuz. She was also called the fertility goddess, which means that we become children of a mother. That was the implication of Astarte, Ishtar, or Semiramis. And Semiramis in this ancient pagan religion, well, it's not so visible to most people. Most people don't recognize the symbols around the tree. Most people don't understand why there's a star on the top of the tree, which also symbolizes an angel who will be like the Most High. And when your children bow down and sit down, kneel to it, they don't recognize what they are doing symbolically as Satan is laughing at them. This all started at a tree, and Christmas is a pagan holiday, and it's a mystery, a secret mystery religion that has been adopted by most Christians today. Would you lie to your children and tell your children lies? According to the Bible, it says, thou shalt not lie. How many Christians today are lying to their children about Santa Claus? Regarding this sacred religion that became part of Christianity, how did it come into the church? I'm going to get to the history of this today and how it was adopted by most of Christianity. In fact, this is from another book. It says, so strong was the belief in the invincible sun, Sol Invictus, that, for example, Constantine, who lived about the 4th century, at first a devotee to the sun cult, found it indeed perfectly compatible with his pro-Christian sympathies. Constantius too found it prudent to change the celebration of the birth of Jesus from the traditional date January 6th to December 25th in order to combat the pagan sun god's popularity, his birthday being December 25th. Tammuz's birthday is on December 25th. Nimrod's birthday is on December 25th. Jesus Christ's birthday is not December 25th. How did this get adopted by Christians? Through Constantine, who became a Roman Catholic. You see, when you look at a lot of things today, you don't see what a lot of other people might see. Easter, or more properly Ishtar, complete with symbolic eggs and rabbit, was in fact a pagan Babylonian and Assyrian deity signifying fertility and sexuality. She is the fertility goddess. She is a mother. Keep that all in mind as we continue. It was introduced into the church by Constantine. And a lot of Christians today are coming together for Easter. It's Easter Sunday coming up. And most Christians do not realize what they are getting into. Most Christians do not understand that they've adopted many counterfeit policies and teachings and doctrines that all come from ancient Babylon that are not biblical. And we'll share why these are not biblical and actually outlawed by the Bible. The Bible outlaws some of these things. Bunny rabbit, Easter eggs, where does this all come from? Easter eggs. Eggs are symbols of fertility. The fertility goddess, Ishtar again. This is who it is. This is right in our faces. It's right before us. It has nothing to do with the resurrection of Jesus Christ. It has to do with ancient pagan Babylonian religion. It's an ancient pagan feast, an ancient pagan worship of ancient pagan gods. In fact, in the book of Daniel chapter 5, in ancient Babylon, Belshazzar, the son of Nebuchadnezzar, made a great feast. I wonder if it was Easter. To 1,000 of his lords, and drank wine before the 1,000, and they drank wine and praised the gods of gold, silver, brass, of iron, wood, and stone. And I wonder if some of those gods would include Nimrod, Ishtar, and Tammuz, the Trinity. Is it possible that maybe most of Babylon is doing the same exact thing that Belshazzar did in his day? This is actually the night that Babylon fell. Babylon was weighed in the balances and found wanting. The writing was on the wall. Daniel came in, read the writing to them. Mene, tekel, upharsin. Your kingdom has been weighed in the balances and found wanting. And it's possible that the same thing may be happening in the Christian churches today. Perhaps their kingdom has been found wanting. Perhaps they've adopted the pagan gods of ancient Babylon today. Here is a picture of Mother Mary and Jesus. No, actually, this is Ishtar, and this is her son Tammuz. In the two Babylons, it says, in the unity of that one God of the Babylonians, there were three persons, and to symbolize that doctrine of the Trinity, they employed as the discoveries of layered proof the equilateral triangle. Watch how this all comes back to those who are doing these little symbols over their eyes. But not only an equilateral triangle, but has anybody ever heard of the Eye of Providence, the all-seeing eye, a symbol depicting an eye who watches over the workers of mankind, which is depicted on the United States $1 bill? Well, regarding this Eye of Providence, in regards to Christianity, the association of an eye with the concept of divine providence is found in Christianity. In late Renaissance European iconography, the eye surrounded by a triangle was an explicit symbol of the Christian Holy Trinity. This is a symbol of ancient Babylon. They brought this symbol into Christianity and forced it onto the church. You see, all roads lead to Rome. So we're looking at these movie stars using this all-seeing eye, which is a symbol of the Trinity. Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz, the ancient Babylonian Trinity. Stars like Jay-Z, Rihanna, Beyonce, but you'll notice what Beyonce has on her head here. It's a symbol. Father, Son, Holy Ghost, the pagan Trinity, the equilateral triangle. But you'll notice on her head she has a crown, and it's very similar to the right. We have the pagan goddess Ishtar, and this is what she is representing. So when they're doing their symbols and their triangles and everything like that, you know that this is an ancient pagan religion. This is ancient pagan sun worship. It's ancient pagan worship that honors Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz, the ancient pagan Holy Trinity, according to them. And it is a secret mystery religion that ultimately revolves around Satan worship. And it is so satanic. I'd like to share with you a little bit more about some of the festivities that took place on these days, which has to do with child sacrifice and other things like that. Listen carefully to what we read from this book by Michael Rood. It says, Semiramis, the queen of heaven, was born again as the goddess Ishtar, as she emerged from a giant egg that landed in the Euphrates River at sunrise on the sun day after the vernal equinox. To proclaim her divine authority, she changed a bird into an egg-laying rabbit. As the cult developed, the priests of Easter would impregnate young virgins on the altar of the goddess of fertility at sunrise on Easter Sunday. A year later, the priests of Easter would sacrifice those 3-month-old babies on the altar at the front of the sanctuary and dye Easter eggs in the blood of the sacrificed infants. This is reality. The 40 days of Lent or weeping for Tammuz starts the Easter fertility season. The festivities culminate on Easter Sunday when the priests of Easter slaughtered the wild boar that killed Tammuz, and the entire congregation would eat the ham on Easter Sunday. These are all traditions that have been adopted by the Catholic Church. 40 days of Lent, eating ham on Easter Sunday, other things like that. This is all pagan traditions. Ishtar eggs. How does the resurrection of Jesus have anything to do with Easter eggs that were once dipped in the blood of infants at the altar of the fertility goddess Ishtar? Is that Christianity? Maybe that's why we're seeing some of these things popping up about Jay-Z and P. Diddy and their sexual assault and human trafficking allegations. Maybe there's something far deeper to this religion that we're looking at today. Maybe Mystery Babylon has some secrets that she doesn't want to tell, and maybe they're coming out. There's nothing new. This is a picture, again, picture of the Holy Trinity as they call it, but it is the Trinity from ancient Babylon. It is Nimrod, it is Ishtar, and it is also Tammuz on the right. Ishtar, Mother Mary worship. That is not Mary. That is not the mother of Jesus. Pagan witchcraft, it's adopted by men like Aleister Crowley. The symbols such as the triquetra, you'll see it on the book The Craft, the Aquarian Conspiracy, Wiccan chalices, Book of Shadows, Charmed. All these symbols are important to esoteric teachings, for they contain secret wisdom accessible only to the initiated. It is only the people who are secretly initiated that know these secrets. You must be initiated. The triquetra is on the King James Bible, but it's not in the Bible. But the mystery of the Trinity is the central doctrine of the Catholic faith, and upon it are based all the other teachings of the Church. And where does it come from? Well, it comes from ancient Babylon. And the churches have adopted some of these doctrines, and they'll say, if you don't accept this doctrine, this pagan worship doctrine, you'll be cast out of the churches today. This is what it is. It's 3 interlocking 6s. And it's right on your Bible. The mark of the beast is 666, and it has to do with who you worship. You worship the beast, and you receive the number of the beast. And you receive it in your forehead as well. Interestingly, the Pope has 666 in his forehead right here. But furthermore, there's something much deeper than this, because the Catholic Church tells us that the change from Saturday Sabbath to Sunday was her act, and the act is a mark of her ecclesiastical authority in religious things. She further tells us Sunday is our mark of authority. The Church is above the Bible, and this transference of Sabbath observance is proof of that fact. This is not biblical. Sunday is not a biblical holy day, and neither is the Trinity a biblical God, other than being warned against. But Sunday, according to Catholic reasons for keeping Sunday, they tell us because it is a day dedicated by the apostles to the honor of the Most Holy Trinity. So Sunday came from ancient Babylon, and so does the Holy Trinity, they call it. And this Trinity of Babylon was Nimrod, Tammuz, and Semiramis. It was adopted by other nations as the languages were split up. In Egypt, it was adopted in Greece, it was adopted in India, Rome, and elsewhere. Again, we see in this picture here, we see a triangle, we see the sun, and we see a man bowing down to worship. This again is all pagan sun worship. It's adopted by most people today. In fact, this is nothing new under the sun. There's Laudato Si is from Pope Francis. It's also called the letter, a message for our earth to save the earth. And in this Laudato Si, they tell us the development of an ecological spirituality which Francis proposes is strengthened within the Christian tradition by cultivating Sabbath rest and by discerning the mystery of the Trinity. You notice how Sunday and Trinity connect together in several places? Sun God worship on the day of the sun. You can see the sun god worship in the COP27 logo here. You'll also see it here when it comes down to sun worship, Aten, the sun god. Newsweek magazine tells us our sin of omissions, 10 plus 1 commandments. What is this one extra commandment? We'll look at it in a second. But it says the rise of the ancient Egyptian dynasties coincided with the rise of the worship of Ra. Ra, the sun god. A new era of renewables must shine out of Egypt this November, or our civilization, like that of the ancient Egyptians, will be doomed. When religious leaders of all faiths ascend Mount Sinai on November 13th during COP27. What happened on Mount Sinai? They were given the 10 Commandments. That included the Sabbath. What do they want now? Well, they want a counterfeit Sabbath, Sunday. Down below, you'll notice that they want you to honor Mother Earth. Who is Mother Earth? Who is Mother Earth? Does that have something to do with Mother Mary? Does that have something to do with maybe Mother Semiramis, Ishtar, all these other pagan gods and goddesses? Well, listen carefully. It says here, blotting out the tempter in 2023. Don't think that fighting Satan is easy. It's not. It is the ultimate battle. On the other hand, it is not beyond our power either. Battles against the evil one are indeed winnable, but only with the Blessed Mother and the saints on your side. In chapter 3 of the book of Genesis, after the fall of man, God addresses the serpent and prophesies that a daughter of Eve will crush thy head. It's not what Genesis 3 says. It actually is talking about the seed of the woman, which is Jesus Christ. Galatians 3:16 says he is the seed. It's nothing to do with Mother Mary. But in all these pictures, you'll notice that it is Mary, and it is actually Ishtar. It's ancient Ishtar pagan worship. City del Vaticano. I'd like you to look at the words on the top of that. That means city of prophecy. The word Vatican means prophecy in the Latin dictionary. City of prophecy. Interesting. I think there's a city in Bible prophecy. We'll look at it. This woman here, you'll notice, is holding a cup in her hand with the sun in her hand. You can see the sun worship right in our face. But Revelation 17 talks about a woman holding a golden cup in her hand, and it is full of abominations. Sun worship is an abomination. I'll come to that in a second. But again, City del Vaticano, again, city of prophecy. And again, we see a woman on the coin, and she's a mother. A pregnant mother, Mother Earth. Is it possible that Isis, Ishtar, Mother Earth, Mother Babylon, all of these relate to the same thing? Gaia, Ishtar, the fertility goddess, Ishtar, Easter, ancient Babylonian fertility goddess, the wife of Nimrod, mother of Tammuz. That's where it comes from. This is ancient pagan Babylonian worship, Mother Ishtar, Mother Earth. And the Vatican coin worshiping the pagan deity Gaia, Mother Earth, it's nothing new under the sun. It's part of their trinity. It's on the euro as well. You'll see, or Ishtar riding the bull. Revelation chapter 17:5 tells us that upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. She's the mother of harlots. Revelation 17:4 says the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, decked with gold, precious stones, and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. Purple and scarlet are the priest colors of the Catholic Church. Gold, it's arrayed in gold and precious stones. We see this everywhere in the Catholic Church. And holding a cup in its hand. The cup symbolizing something that they do in regards to their worship. See, the woman is arrayed in purple and scarlet. It's not something that we should miss. And she is the mother of harlots, decked with precious stones and gold. And Revelation 17:18 tells us the woman that you saw is the great city which reigned over the kings of the earth. And we've seen this for centuries. This woman has had power of the kings of the earth. And those who did not comply with her mystery religion, those who came against it, were put to death. And this is how they push Christianity and the Trinity and Sunday on the masses. But now they don't have to push it on the masses, because what's happening now is most people don't read their Bibles, so nobody's going to discern when this mystery religion is pushed on the people. However, during the Dark Ages, the Bible was outlawed, and it was outlawed because people might read it. Today, the Catholic Church does not need to worry about that. See, it's told that with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, church and state has united for many years, and it's uniting again today. And you'll notice again these coins. Look on the coin and you'll see the woman. She's holding a cup, and in this cup is an abomination, and that abomination is a symbol. It's a symbol of sun worship. Ezekiel 8:15 and 16, the mother of abominations, greater abominations than these, and they worship the sun toward the east. Actually, verse 13 and 14 tell us, he said unto me, turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations than they do. Then he brought me to the door of the gate of the Lord's house, which was toward the north, and behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz. Tammuz is part of the Trinity. The sun god Nimrod is part of the Trinity. Semiramis, the mother of harlots, mother of abominations, is part of the Trinity. These are all abominations that are in your face. Ishtar, Easter, is an abomination. The Pope says in his Laudato Si encyclical, "Praise be to you through our sister Mother Earth." Our sister Mother Earth? Earth is not our mother. And what Pope says, "Curse my mother, expect a punch." Is it possible that he's talking about Mother Ishtar, Easter Sunday, and the Trinity? You see, Jay and Andrews told us the doctrine of the Trinity, which was established in the Church by the Council of Nice, AD 325. This doctrine destroys the personality of God and of His Son, Jesus Christ our Lord. The infamous measures by which it was forced upon the Church, which appear upon the pages of ecclesiastical history, might well cause every believer in the doctrine to blush. Many people do not understand the history of how this got pushed on the Church. They don't understand how Constantine made it something that was to be accepted, and they pushed out people out of the Church and actually destroyed entire nations because of this doctrine. Is Tammuz and Nimrod the same? Some people say so. Tammuz was worshipped as the reincarnation of the sun god Nimrod. His birthday is recognized up until this day on December 25th. So when all these pagan worshippers come together and worship these false gods and do the all-seeing eye and all this other stuff, this is all in honor of the pagan Trinity. And it is false worship, it's counterfeit worship, it's baby sacrifices and all kinds of wicked stuff that go with it. But regarding Constantine, going back to this time, in the early part of the 4th century, the Emperor Constantine further issued a decree making Sunday a public festival throughout the Roman Empire. The Day of the Sun was reverenced by his pagan subjects and was honored by Christians. It was the emperor's policy to unite the conflicting interests of heathenism and Christianity. Not a lot of people understand where Sunday came from, but this is how it got pushed on the Church. This is how it came to be a public festival that was adopted. But again, Sunday was already a day exalted among the heathen. The heathen were exalting this day being a day on which they worshiped the sun. So they were already worshiping the sun. A.T. Jones documents it this way. This is how it came to pass. From Rome there came another addition to the sun worshipping apostasy. The first Christians, being mostly Jews, continued to celebrate the Passover in remembrance of the death of Christ, the true Passover. Not a lot of people know the early Christians celebrated the Passover. This was continued among those who from among the Gentiles had turned to Christ. Accordingly, the celebration was always on the Passover day, the 14th day of the first month. However, Rome, from her all the west, adopted the Day of the Sun as the day of this celebration, the first Sunday after the vernal equinox. And they did everything to separate themselves from God's calendar, and they came up with their own ideas of when the resurrection should be celebrated, and they pushed it on the Church, changing God's appointed time from the day of the Passover, the 14th of the first month, accordingly as it was kept, to the Sunday, the first day of the week. The Catholic Church abolished not only Sabbath, but all other Jewish festivals. This is what they tell us. They tell us straightly these things. They tell us also that instead of the seventh day and other festivals appointed by the old law, the Church has prescribed the Sundays and holy days to be set apart for God's worship. And these we are now obliged to keep in consequence of God's commandment instead of the ancient Sabbath. So we keep Easter, we keep Christmas, we don't keep the Feast of Passover, and we don't keep the Feast of Tabernacles anymore because they've changed it. This is why we do these things. And they changed the Passover day to Easter Sunday and then eventually adopted it as a weekly celebration. Easter Sunday is where Sunday comes from, the change of the Passover. See, question, have you any other way of proving that the Church has power to institute festivals of precept? They tell us. Answer, had she not such power, she could not have done that in which all modern religionists agree with her. She could not have substituted the observance of Sunday, the first day of the week, for the observance of Saturday, the seventh day, a change for which there is no scriptural authority. So where does she get the power to institute festivals like Easter and Christmas and Lent and all these other things? By changing the Sabbath to Sunday. That's where all these pagan feasts and festivals come from. Again, she tells us, how prove you that the Church hath power to command feasts and holy days? By the very act of changing the Sabbath to Sunday, which Protestants now allow of, and therefore fondly contradict themselves, by keeping Sunday strictly and breaking most other feasts commanded by the same Church. How prove you that? Because by keeping Sunday, they acknowledge the Church's power to ordain feasts and to command them under sin, and by not keeping the rest by her commanded, they deny again in fact the same power. It's all mystery Babylon religion. It's no different than when Belshazzar the king made a great feast and called all his lords, and they drank wine before the 1,000. It is the wine of Babylon that most churches are drinking today, and they're worshiping the same gods. They drank wine and praised the gods of gold, silver, brass and iron, and wood and stone. This is where ancient Babylonian religion is. And it's not just ancient Babylonian religion, but it is now modern day Babylonian religion. Satan is wanting to cast a lot of confusion with regards to how we begin the year. And the Bible tells us that it begins in the spring. But it says in Genesis 1:14 that God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night. Let them be for signs and for seasons, for days and for years." He's trying to bring in all kinds of things that are contrary to this. In fact, he wants us to understand the sun, the moon, and the stars and how it relates to his calendar. It is not to do with Janus, the god of beginnings, January. It's not to do with February, another pagan god. It is not to do with Mars, the god of war. It has nothing to do with April, May, and June, these goddesses. It has nothing to do with July and Julius Caesar and Augustus Caesar. And he wants us to understand it just as the early Christians did. Just like the Corinthians, who he told, "Purge out the old leaven, that you may be a new lump, as you're unleavened. For even Christ our Passover is sacrificed for us." And he says, let us keep the feast. God wants us to keep the feast. Not with the sacrifice, because Christ our Passover is sacrificed for us. He wants us to understand that God has given us a sacrifice. But he wants us to keep the feast. And do you think when he says keep the feast that we should just make our own day to keep it? Or we should go by what Rome's days are to keep it? Such as Easter. I think it's different than that. I think God would have us do what God has called us to do, just as Paul did. The Colossians, another Gentile group, was called to let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink, or in respect of a holy day or of the new moon or the Sabbath days. Sabbaths and new moons will be kept in the new heaven and earth, according to Isaiah 66:22-23. They weren't nailed to the cross. They aren't going to be something that's against us. They're something that was for us. They were a blessing. The Sabbath was blessed. The devil would have us nail the blessing of the cross. Blessed are they that do his commandments, that they might have right to the tree of life. He's definitely trying to nail those things to the cross and do away with them all. See, Philippians also did this. Ellen White talks about this. She said at Philippi, Paul tarried to keep the Passover. Well, he didn't do a sacrifice, but only Luke remained with him, the other members of the company passing on to Troas to await him there. The Philippians were the most loving and true-hearted of the apostles' converts, and during the 8 days of the feast, he enjoyed peaceful and happy communion with them. It was a blessing to keeping these appointed times. Not only did all the early church keep these things, but also the church in the wilderness, the Waldenses. They had a hymnal that was written in Hungarian. It consisted of 102 hymns, 44 for the Sabbath, 5 for the new moon, 11 for Passover and unleavened bread, 6 for the Feast of Weeks, which is Pentecost, 6 for Tabernacles, 3 for the New Year, which they didn't use barley to do that because that's too far away, but 1 for Atonement, 26 for everyday purposes, and these were all for the Waldenses. The Waldenses kept these things. The Waldenses in the wilderness kept all the feasts. This was your church in the wilderness. This was the one that Rome hated, the one that had the Bible, as we read in the book of Revelation chapter 12. You see, even the temple was directed directly to the east, so that on the day of the vernal equinox, the sun would shine directly into the most holy place, and they would know that this was the start of their year. And then following this, they would wait till a new moon, and the first new moon of the year, they would move 14 days past that, and that would be the Passover of the Lord. See, a lot of the knowledge that we've had in time past, we've lost. We used to know how the earth traveled into different positions around the stars, and we could tell what month of the year was. But now we've lost all this knowledge, and it's become hidden to us, and therefore now it's easy to just go along with Babylon's calendar of Janus, February, Mars, and April, and May, and June, and all these fake gods and false gods of Babylon. But if we understand properly and we learn how the sun shines on the moon and how the earth travels around the sun and these other things, we can understand how God's calendar truly works. We can understand where we are in relation to time. As God's people, we need to pray about these things and understand there is a secret Babylonian religion that is being pushed on the people, and the devil wants to confuse a lot of people with regards to his appointed time. The devil does not want them to understand that he's given them Easter and Christmas and all these other pagan holidays to push onto the people. What is the Passover? Why was it given? How does it relate? Because Jesus said, I will not keep this Passover till I keep it with you again in the kingdom of God. He told us that he would do this with us in the future. And I think it's important for us to really study these things and understand. Our God is an awesome God, a good God, a God of love, and a God of mercy. And we should keep these things in mind and truly study out and understand these things, and also discern when these things are pushed on the church. And the only way that we're going to discern these things is when we truly start studying our Bibles and we understand history. History is important. We have nothing to fear except we shall forget the way that the Lord has led us in the past. We're told in the Bible to remember how the Lord led us through the wilderness, to remember how the Lord led us in dark ages, how the Lord has pulled us out of these things in the time past, how we went into Babylon and how we came out. We need to remember our history and become familiar with it so that we do not repeat the same mistakes, adopt the same pagan doctrines of the past that have been adopted by Babylon and have deceived the church in the past. We don't want to make the same mistakes again. And be sure to like this video, subscribe, share, and comment below. We'll see you next time.